Welcome to LitCast, the podcast covering GCSE literature revision and notes for WJEC. These podcasts are designed to be used as an additional revision tool. There's nothing new or groundbreaking here, just revision notes in an on-the-go friendly format. Using these alone won't guarantee you an A star, but they can help you build your confidence to apply this knowledge to your exam questions and your classwork. With that being said, let's get started. Hello again and welcome back to LitCast. In this episode we're going to be talking about Crooks, the character that represents racial discrimination in America in the 1930s in the novella of Mice and Men. Crooks, so named because of a crooked back caused by a kick from a horse, is a stable hand who takes care of the horses and lives by himself because he is the only black man on the ranch in Of Mice and Men. Along with Candy, Crooks is a character used by Steinbeck to show the effects of discrimination. And in this case, the discrimination is that of race. Crooks is not allowed in the bunkhouse with the white ranch hands. He's got his own place in the barn with the animals. He does have his own room, and it's small, basic and functional, but it is homely and it's his own. It's full of his possessions. And from his possessions, we can see that he's practical and active. He has things like rubber boots, an alarm clock and a shotgun. His books show that he reads and he thinks as well, which is a sign that he will be a fully developed character and he will have a personality and a bit of a background too. People who try to come into his room get a frosty reception because privacy is one of the few rights that he actually has. He hides his loneliness by being proud and aloof and tries to show that it doesn't affect him, but it is clear through Steinbeck's writing that, as with a lot of the other characters, the loneliness does affect him. It's very clear that Crooks is a victim of racism throughout the novella. He's, as we said, the only black man in the book. He's excluded from the bunkhouse. The other workers say that he smells, and it's this idea that he's put on a par with the animals, so he's left to live with the animals and to live in similar conditions or with similar rights to animals. He's lonely, he misses the company of other people, and his loneliness does make him bitter. He seems very jealous of George and Lenny's friendship and teases Lenny, and an example of that would be in chapter 4 where he teases him and gives him this idea or this possibility that George might leave him and not come back. Again, to sort of mitigate that jealousy that he feels. Candy realises that he's never been in Crooks's room, and George's reaction to Crooks being involved in their dream is enough to cause Crooks to withdraw his request to be part of the dream at all. Racial discrimination is just part of this microcosm that Steinbeck describes in his story. The racial slurs that the other characters use to talk to Crooks and to address him are not intentionally offensive. It's just that they use that rather than thinking of using his name. And in a similar way to Curly's wife, Crooks is so named because of the injury that has taken place. So again, we've got that kind of barrier. We don't necessarily know more about him, like his real name and his past. The true sinister nature of this prejudice reaches its height in the novel when Curly's wife puts Crooks in his place by telling him that a single word from her will have him lynched. Interestingly, only Lenny, the flawed human by all accounts, does not see the colour of Crooks's skin and therefore doesn't have any prejudice towards him as such. Crooks also has pride. He's not the descendant of slaves, he tells Lenny, but of landowners. In several places in the story, Steinbeck shows Crooks' dignity and pride when he draws himself up and will not accept charity from anyone. Crooks also displays this terrible dignity when Curly's wife begins to tear away at his hope for the dream farm. He's not without his faults, however. He scares Lenny and makes up the story of George leaving him, as mentioned before, possibly because of his jealousy, and also an indication of prejudice. Prejudice isn't simply a characteristic of the white ranch hands or the daughter-in-law of the boss, it's a human characteristic, and Crooks needs to feel superior to someone as well. He is a survivor, but has little power on the ranch. He's good at his job and he's the best at the horseshoe game, but he's at the bottom of the pile of ranch workers. Because he's black, he can't hope to ever have power. When Lenny tells him about the dream farm, he offers to work there for free, because life on the farm would give him dignity, which he doesn't have now, and that's what he craves. The dream has a powerful effect on Crooks. It gives him the courage to stand up to Curly's wife. However, it becomes clear how fragile his confidence is when she threatens to have him hanged, and he tries to make himself invisible. he reduced himself to nothing, is a really nice quote for that. So when writing an essay about Crooks and linking him to contextual factors, it should be fairly obvious the kind of way you could link him to those contextual ideas. So the first and most obvious one is the idea of prejudice and the other characters being racist towards him, and also the knowledge that racism was rife in society and was pretty common at the time. The setting of Crooks's room being set away from others and with the animals again highlights that prejudice. He also embodies the idea of loneliness and the lonely, harsh life of a ranch worker. Despite being a permanent worker on the ranch, he is isolated from the other workers, and he resents being excluded from them, and he deals with his loneliness, as we said before, by a mixture of intimidating Lenny and also being proud and aloof. We also have him linked to dreams and the idea of the American dream, and his attitude changing towards George and Lenny's farm dream throughout chapter 4, as it seems to become more attainable. And we've got the comparison of Curly's wife, who again is someone who is met with prejudice in the life of, or on the life of the ranch, in life on the ranch, and the way that she treats Crooks and what that says about the social hierarchy and the differences in power of people at the time. So there's a lot that you could link into that central theme and the more obvious theme of racism around Crooks, and a really kind of good place to look at Crooks and to explore the development of his character and to link the development of his character and what happens with him to other things in the novella is chapter 4. That's kind of the key chapter for him. So that's some extra notes and pointers on Crooks for your GCSE revision. Thank you for listening, and tune into the next one. You've been listening to LitCast, the podcast covering GCSE literature revision and notes for WJEC. This podcast is available to download from castbox.com, so if you're listening on YouTube, the link will be in the description below, where you can download these to listen offline on your phone and on the go. Thank you for listening, and good luck with your revision.